It's not that easy to leave a lasting impression on history. After all, it's thousands of years old. It takes a lot of time to build something great or do something special enough to become part of history books. But if you think leaving an impression on history is hard, how about disappearing from history? That's exactly what happened to the Vikings of North America. After spending almost 500 years there, one day they were there and the next day they were gone. History tells us that the Vikings first arrived on the shores of North America around the year 990 AD. This was more than 500 years before Christopher Columbus ever set foot on the continent. And they were so successful that at one point they had established a small town with dozens of homes and even a farm. Yet despite their long stay, their existence has been largely forgotten, with no record of their presence being found anywhere. This event is known as the Vanished Vikings. Welcome to Unleash Facts, the place where history's secrets, unsolved mysteries, and mind-blowing truths come to light. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the mysterious case of the Vanished Vikings. So make sure to watch the whole video and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get into it. In the late 8th century, the Viking population was growing and growing, but the land they inhabited remained relatively the same. Their area covered most of Scandinavia, which today consists of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. With the land remaining the same, but the population increasing, it meant that there wasn't enough resources for everybody. This caused many Vikings to search elsewhere for a new life. As such, some began exploring and pillaging the northern seas, eventually coming across the British Isles and the shores of North Africa. The Vikings became well known for these raids, attacking and pillaging settlements before sailing back home with whatever riches they could carry. In fact, this is how the Vikings became known in Europe, as their word for foreigner or outcast was Viking. But by the end of the 8th century, raiding was becoming less profitable and competition was increasing. So the Vikings started looking elsewhere to establish settlements. In 982 AD, the Norwegian Eric the Red was banished from his homeland for killing 2 fellow Norwegians in a fit of rage. To make it to Iceland, he sailed west and ended up discovering the island of Greenland. Seeing the potential of the new land, he spent the next few years colonizing it, encouraging other Vikings to move there and inviting a bishop to convert the natives to Christianity. Eric's son, Leif Erikson, followed in his father's footsteps and became a famous explorer, credited with being the first European to set foot on continental America. In 990 AD, while sailing off the coast of Greenland, a storm struck and drove his ship off course. They ended up on an unfamiliar coastline, which Leif named Vinland after the wild grapes that grew there. He went on to explore the area, though not much else is known about his journey, except for the sagas written hundreds of years later, which are often considered unreliable. But historians believe that he may have explored as far south as the area around modern-day New York, or as far north as Newfoundland, Canada. Leif's younger brother, Thorvald, traveled to Vinland a few years later, establishing a settlement there. But Thorvald and most of the men with him died during the winter, likely due to a lack of food and exposure to the harsh weather. While Thorvald's brother, another Leif, eventually returned to Greenland, he too died, though his death was a little more violent. According to legend, he and his men killed 2 of the native Skrellings, but then 40 of them sneak attacked his party, killing many of the Vikings and forcing the survivors to flee. While it's unclear why the Vikings abandoned their settlements, some believe it was because of conflict with the Skrellings. In fact, some theories suggest that the Skrellings may have wiped out the entire Viking population in North America. But other sources state that the settlement was abandoned because of poor soil quality and a lack of wood for building and heating. Most likely the combination of all these factors led to their abandonment of the settlements. Now, here's where things get interesting. Between 1000 and 1500, the Viking settlements in Greenland saw massive growth. They farmed, hunted, and even traded with the natives. But as the 13th century approached, their society began to decline. Archaeological evidence suggests that climate change played a role in this decline, causing the end of the Viking Age and leading to the end of their settlements in Greenland. Yet despite their disappearance, evidence of the Vikings still remains in North America. In 2019, researchers announced the discovery of a Norse ceremonial site in Newfoundland, Canada. Called Lance Ox Meadows, the site contains remnants of 8 buildings along with tools, weapons, pottery, and other artifacts. Archaeologists say that based on the layout of the site, it may have served as a seasonal base camp used for trading and religious ceremonies rather than a permanent settlement. While Lance Ox Meadows helped paint a picture of the Vikings in North America, nobody really knows what happened to them or why they left. Throughout history, scientists have come up with many theories as to what happened to the Vikings. Some have suggested that the Vikings assimilated with the native populations, while others claim that the Europeans who came after the Vikings simply wiped them out. Then there are those who believe that diseases brought over from Europe killed off large portions of the native populations, causing the Vikings to abandon their settlements. One of the more popular theories is that the Vikings integrated into native society, and there is some evidence to support this theory. For example, when John Cabot landed in Newfoundland in 1497, he reported seeing friendly natives who had white skin and red hair, just like the Vikings. Additionally, there were rumors of people living in Labrador who claimed to be the descendants of Vikings. However, there is no concrete proof that these people were actually descendants of the Vikings, nor is there any evidence that the Vikings had integrated into native society. Another theory is that the Vikings were wiped out by the Spanish who came searching for gold. But there is no evidence that the Spanish ever made it that far north. Even if they had, though, the Vikings were gone by the time the Spanish began exploring the area. So this theory falls apart because the Vikings wouldn't have been there to wipe out. There's also the possibility that the Vikings were killed off by disease. When the Vikings first arrived in North America, they brought with them cattle, pigs, and sheep. These animals would have carried diseases with them that the natives would have no immunity to. And these diseases could have easily wiped out large portions of the native population, causing the Vikings to abandon their settlements. There is evidence to support this theory, as there were very few native tribes further north in the United States after the Europeans arrived. Still, none of these theories can say for certain what happened to the Vikings. And there are plenty of theories out there about what could have happened. Who knows? Maybe one day soon new evidence will surface that will shed light on this centuries-old mystery. What do you think happened to the Vikings? Do you think they integrated into native society? Were they wiped out by disease, or did the Europeans kill them all? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps me a lot. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then check out some of my other videos that I think you might like. And if you haven't already, then go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video.